People will do it for kind of a short period of time, for one reason or the other. Either, you have kids, or you kind of burn out and you just kind of get tired of dealing with the same sad shit every single day. And, a lot of people who do the work and really do the work, they'll do it for, maybe 3 to 5 years. And then it's like, I'm gonna go use my law degree to make like some actual money, or I'm gonna go start a family, or I'm just gonna go find a job where I don't have to look at this horrific shit every day. But I think the people who go longer, right, like the people who do it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I think you kind of figure out a way to still sleep at night. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if you just get used to it, if you just kind of get numb to it. I catch that sometimes. Like I realize, like, tell somebody like a story from work, and they have this look of horror on their face.
Right. Yeah, I mean, dude, I could imagine.
And you're like, oh, right, this is not stuff that normal people deal with every day. This is horrific for them to hear.
Yeah, and I would imagine at a certain point your day to day just becomes consumed with taking in sex crimes.
Yeah, it kind of just becomes part of life.
Like, you don't have kids, right?
No.
Just making sure we're filming. Yeah, like, obviously, kids fall into that realm, correct?
Yep.
So you deal with
Abused children and, yeah, abused adults, all of that. There's no cutoff, from ages 0 to 100 if they're a victim of, a sex crime, of human trafficking, and that case comes across my desk, I'm dealing with it. I think that's why a lot of people stop doing this kind of work.
with kids.
Yeah, they just, suddenly, and I've spoken to people who have said, they're like, suddenly I was sitting at the park with my kid and like I couldn't relax. Every adult there suddenly became a suspect.
Yeah, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I could see that, because it's almost like, to a completely different degree, but it's almost like, how does a therapist like live life not therapy, like,
Yeah.
like being like, even just like to your spouse,
Exactly.
like, how do you not? So it's like you can insert yourself into any situation and be like, oh well, this someone's like at pizza shop anywhere, and you could easily. That's what I mean. You just consume it. It's just consumed.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like any job, right? Like, you're a barber. Like,
Yeah, I guess
if you see some dude at the grocery store with a jacked up haircut, your first thought is probably like, damn, I could really fix that dude's hair. Or
Yeah, you're right.
So like whatever.
So what's your first thought? I can fix like if you were walking through the King of Prussia Mall.
Yeah.
Okay, my first question for the local folks.
For the local folks.
Is that true? Is what they say about the King of Prussia Mall and the parking lot and all that shit true? Is that urban legend true?
There's definitely some truth to it. I think I try to tell people when they ask about what I do, and like they ask specifically about like human trafficking, right? I'm like, it's absolutely happened at the King of Prussia Mall, right? And that's kind of one of the problems with the field of human trafficking prosecution, is the urban legends, right? Because people either think like, oh, Tiffany's getting snatched at the King of Prussia Mall, or they go the opposite way and they saw Sound of Freedom and they think like the only way you'd be human trafficked is if you're stolen from a village in Guadalajara. Like, it's so much more prevalent than all that, right? Yeah. It's so much more common than all that. And it's, I try to tell people, like, wherever you live, whatever town you live in, somebody from your town has been trafficked.
Yeah, so like, I guess ultimately, like, what is like for people who don't know, including I guess myself, what would be like the minimal, like the lowest level of like definition of trafficking? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's
like, what's like the lowest degree of like something that someone might not even think of, but like if you get arrested for something, they could throw that at you. Like, you know how like if someone gets locked up for something, they throw all this other shit at them. Like, human trafficking is obviously like a big example, but like, what is something that like people be like, oh wait, that would be considered trafficking?
Yeah, I mean, taking, holding somebody's paycheck, right? Like, if you work here for a salary, if the owner of this shop held your money at the end of the day and didn't give it to you, right? And he said like, oh yeah, no, you made $100 today, but you got to pay me 20 for the chair, and I see that you need new scissors. That's 30, and I see that we got to have a hair clip removal fee. That's another 10. And he keeps racking it up, and then at the end of it, he hands you $5. Under the right set of circumstances, you could say like, well, that kind of sounds like labor trafficking. Like that kind of sounds like this dude does not have, he does not have self autonomy, right? Like he's kind of being, and look, that's a broad example.
Yeah.
Because look under
You're
this,
gonna have folks out here
under the same
acting up.
exactly. Because under the same set of circumstances, you could just say, wow, that dude's boss is a dick, right? And it's like it could be one or the other, and everything is so case specific, right? Everything is so fact dependent. It's like, what's the power dynamic, right? Are you a kid being forced to work here? Did he take your car keys and your driver's license and then take the money you made for the day, right? So it's also fact specific, right? Like that's the hardest part of our job, because I mean there are certain instances of like, I always said this was what was the hard part about like, the big umbrella of like special victims crimes, right? Is like if you pull a gun out on Leverington Avenue and you point it at somebody and you take their wallet, there's no set of facts or circumstances that make that not a robbery, right? Like that's always a robbery. But there are certain cases under that special victims umbrella where it's like, if all of this is true, it might still not be a crime. So you have to sit and like, that's what you explain to juries, and that's what you explain to, the world as at large is like, yeah, but here's this one specific fact that took this from, because like, it's not illegal to have sex.
Right.
And even looking at like the Diddy trial, it's not illegal to have a sex party.
Right.
It's not illegal.
And I think that's what people, and I'm not co-signing anything that he's done. It's weird. All of it's weird. But I think that's the biggest debate right now. Is it just like, is it illegal or is he just like a freak? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that man just like a weirdo?
That's what, yeah. And I mean, that's why we have jury trials, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's why trials exist. If we were able to answer that, it'd be a plea deal or it would be charges withdrawn depending on the answer. But that is the question, But Diddy might be a freak. That might be his thing. But when you can hold people's contracts over their head, when you can hold their money over their head, when you can commit acts of violence to force them into compliance.
What about buying like being in Florida and booking a prostitute from Atlanta? Like, is that considered trafficking?
Maybe.
Like, cause it's crossing state lines?
Maybe.
Like,
I'm no expert. I'm definitely no expert on Florida and Atlanta.
No, it was just like, all right, even just here, right? Like, if you, like, say you live in Jersey.
Right.
And you book an escort or, like, a sex worker from
Delaware, Philly, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah, it's, again, but it comes back to that question.
I said Florida because, like, Diddy obviously lived in Miami.
Right.
And, like, obviously he was getting sex workers probably from all over the place. And I guess that is where, and I think, obviously, I guess that to circle back, it's like that's where you can get like the human trafficking. Like if he was getting sex workers from out of state, like then I guess that would be.
Yeah, and you gotta, one of the things too that we always try to do is, you gotta look at it from a broader lens, right? Where did this, not like geographically, but like employment, where did this, default to like woman, right? Where did this woman come from, right? Did somebody else tell her to travel across state lines to go meet Diddy? Did somebody else take that money?
Like she got someone pimping her.
Right, exactly. And that's the biggest struggle with human trafficking now, right? Is that's kind of a new term, because it wasn't always called human trafficking. It was called pimping, and it was real popular.
Yeah.
I'm a product of the 90s and 2000s, man. That was the highest praise that you could get. You always
Pimpin',
right,
pimpin'.
pimping, right? He's a pimp. You're a pimp, right? Pimping ain't easy, but all that,
bro.
right? Like that's it's taken a long time to
Bro,
kind
all
of.
that music that came out of the South in that time period was about pimping, bro.
Everything was about
Everything was
pimping.
about
Everything
pimping,
that
bro.
came out of Atlanta,
Yeah,
Memphis,
bro,
all
shit
of
was
that,
all pimping, bro.
all of it, right? Hustle and flow.
Yeah, it was all pimping.
I saw Hustle and Flow when it came out when it came out. I was in high school, and I was like, man, what a cool movie. And then I watched it, having done the job that I do. I watched it like a few years ago, and I was like, oh man, we might charge that as trafficking,
Right.
right? This, girls getting thrown out of their house if they don't comply,
Yeah, dead ass, bro.
right?
That's what I guess that's like, what people, I guess, like, not to keep talking about the Diddy shit, but it's like, I guess that's like where you could really, I mean, I don't know. We don't even know. Like, who the hell knows? But it's like, I guess that's where people could really get them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's. You look at I forget who the quote is from, some writer from hundreds of years ago, right? He said, everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power, right? And you look at a case like the Diddy case or the Weinstein case or the Epstein case, and you're like, yeah, no, this really was just all about power.
Right.
Right? Like, if you went to one of Diddy's freak parties, did you actually have the ability to say no to anything that got thrown out there? Or were you going to lose your contract? Were you going to lose your home, your car, your job, your money, right? And that's just...
It's so fucking crazy to think about.
And then that's the tip of the iceberg, right? Because once you get through, like, am I going to lose my contract? I don't care if I'm going to lose my contract. I'm not doing this. Okay, well, am I going to get assaulted if I don't do this? Am I going to get forced to do this if I don't do this? Am I going to be, am I going to be killed? All of these things, right? And it's like, all of these things are factors that you look at when you're trying to figure out, like, was he just a freak or was he a human trafficker?
Yeah. Do you remember, like, you've been doing the job for a while now.
Yeah.
And you obviously probably worked at a couple different places and different offices. Do you remember, like, what was the first case you had where you were like, oh, fuck, buckle up, I'm here. Like, this is it. This is what I signed up for.
Yeah, I've had a few like that. I don't know. I still have those, though. Right? Like, every case, every case, I'm like, shit, fuck. I still look around for an adult sometimes. I'm like, there's got to be a grown-up around here. I can't be handling this. I've only been here for 10 years. Is there an adult in the room?
Dude. Yeah, fuck, dude, I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, it's the same way you eat an elephant, man. One bite at a time.
Yeah. Do you remember well, what was one of the first cases, bro, that you remember? You were just like, holy fuck.
I wouldn't say it was like a specific case. I really wouldn't. It was just like, it was like the first time that, like, it was the first time that, like, a jury came in with a verdict, right? That I was, like, sitting there watching 12 people file into the room, that it kind of sunk in that, like, this was real, right? Like, 12 strangers from Philadelphia are filed into a room, and it wasn't the trial itself. The trial itself, it didn't really sink in. You kind of just look 5 yards down the field, right, and you just kind of keep doing it. But then when the trial is over and they're deliberating on a verdict and you're waiting, that it kind of sinks in, like, oh shit, I just did that. Like, if this goes horribly wrong, it is completely my fault.
Your fault.
Right? Like, there's nobody to blame but me.
Did it go right?
It went right.
What was the case?
It was, my first bunch were all just, kind of sexual assault cases, and it was one of them.
When was the first time? Yeah, I guess I can imagine, especially like in the city, it's probably all just like sexual assault. And did you? Was the victim older or younger? Was it like a multiple victim situation, or what was it?
My first one, I think, was just a single victim. You know, single. It was a single survivor. It was, but you get to know them,
Yeah.
right? You end up spending a lot of time with these people, and then as 12 people come in with the answer, right? Like that's what the verdict is. It's an answer, and you're like, oh my god, like now I really care. Like I know this person. You might have met their families. You might have, you've heard all about their life, and you ask them like, yeah, you can trust me. You've asked for a lot of trust to do this.
Yeah, dude, you're someone who harmed them, who like literally scarred their life, their freedom is at your ability to articulate
Yeah, it
and
is.
prove that they're guilty.
And survivors of assault cases like this. I mean, think about it, man. They're telling this story to 12 strangers.
Yeah.
It's 12 people they've never met. They don't know them. By and large, you're the only person in the room they know.
I know, yeah. It's fucking crazy.
It's gotten better now. There's more advocacy groups out there, so you'll get like victims advocates and stuff like that, and you'll be able to put a few more people in the room, kind of as allies. But in the early days, there were a lot of cases where it was just me and this survivor in the room, and all their trust that they have in the world that they can muster, they gave it to you. And you're like, now the verdict's coming in. You're like, I'm gonna puke. I'm gonna be sick. Like, oh my god, did I fuck this up? Have I ruined this?
And what's something for you like after a big verdict that you do for your like self to kind of like recenter after something like that? Because I'm sure the adrenaline dump, even for you, has to be fucking crazy.
I gotta say, I didn't play them well, but I played sports my whole life, and like, I've done a lot of other things that like jack your adrenaline, and there is nothing like the adrenaline dump after a trial.
Yeah.
Nothing can compare. You're a zombie for like 3 days after that.
I can imagine. Does your wife kind of just like know? You're like, all right.
Yeah.
You're just gonna be kind of to yourself for a few days.
Yeah, she's like, he's useless. I'm just gonna here. She like leaves food by the door like I'm like a
Like you're a
fucking
dog.
gremlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
There's just like pizza boxes around the house.
Have you ever had a case that like really kind of puts you down for like days, weeks, like just kind of like mentally, just like whether it like had to do with like a bunch of kids being moved around, like you know what I mean? Like, has there been ever that just like took you out?
I think they all take you out,
Yeah.
but there's always another case, right?
I
Like
guess
there's
you gotta like go to work the night. You still
yeah,
gotta work.
like if this is your job, man, there's somebody else who needs you. So you,
like, do they give you like a little bit of wit? Like, yo, you just had a big old thing, dude. Maybe take a couple days. Is that like an option?
yeah, that's all. That's an option. Like the people who work in this world in particular, right? The people who kind of live in this world, like we all kind of try to uplift each other.
Right.
So if like somebody I work with who I'm tight with, like, they just finished a trial, like I'm gonna try to take something off their plate. Like, oh, you have like a status conference, like I got you. Like, oh, you need like a letter mailed, I got it. Let me do this for you. We all try to do that for each other.
That's cool.
But yeah, like there's maybe you get a day, maybe you get 2, maybe you get 3 in a weekend, but come Monday, you're back at it.
Ah, damn, dude.
Yesterday's victories don't win today's battles, so you gotta, grab a cup of coffee and get back in there, bro.
Is it like, are a lot of your, like, are you dealing, statewide?
Statewide, yeah.
Damn. That's a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah. Sure is.
What is like the most common, I guess sexual, is like, what's the most common thing that you deal with?
I gotta say, honest to God, nothing is common.
Nothing's common, right?
No 2 days
Yeah.
look alike, right?
As cliche as that sounds, yeah.
Yeah, and it does, but no 2 days really do look
Yeah.
alike, and it's,
Yeah,
we're
Right.
trying to gain a little bit of ground every day. So it's like, where are we going to gain ground today? You know, you wanna gain ground by prosecuting offenders, by, you know, giving a voice to survivors, by helping people who have survived this stuff. You wanna like do that, and it's like, all right, are we gonna gain ground there? But at the same time, you know, like we said, right? I mean, we're also trying to gain ground publicly, like trying to get
Right.
people to understand the nuances here, and you know, it's stuff that like, dude, if you work a 9 to 5 job, this is like the furthest thing from your mind.
Right.
You know, you turn on the news and see the Diddy trial and you roll your eyes because you're like, oh, everybody went to that party willingly, you know. And our goal sometimes is to like get you to understand, like, yeah, it's not quite that straightforward.
Right.
You know, it's not like the neighbor's cocktail party down the street. You know, this was somebody who held people's livelihoods in their hand, their contracts in their hand. You know,
Yeah.
people who were, you know, subjected to violence and threats.
Does PA itself have like a, what are like the sex trafficking numbers, and like is there like a, or like even just like some sort of like human traffic, like what are the numbers like in PA itself?
You know, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. You know, I probably have them somewhere, but it's kind of just, again, it's like, you know,
It just happens.
like eating an elephant, right? Like one bite at a time. You know, sometimes you look at the numbers at the end of the year and it's like it's uplifting. We're like, wow, we did good work this year.
Hell yeah.
But sometimes you look at how much work there still is left to be done, and it's like, shit.
How do you get assigned cases?
By having a boss.
And they just like give it, do they like, are they like, oh, this is your strong suit, like we'll give you this, or?
Yeah, I mean, it can be that sometimes. Sometimes it's just like, you know, who has the least on their plate right
Yeah.
now, right? Because everybody's got a lot. So who has the least?
Is there a lot of like active stuff, like you're building cases like right now, or is it like is there still stuff that's like you're just trying to sort through from like that's years old too? You're trying
Always.
to figure out, yeah.
Always.
Is it like TV where new DNA and like new evidence and stuff like that like fucking help solve old stuff?
It can be, yeah. I think Law and Order talks about it accurately, right? Like there's the CODIS system,
Yeah.
which logs DNA from, you know, old sexual assault cases or old crimes, really. But
Right.
you know, yeah, if something comes up, we go with it.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess you can't really play with much anymore anyway. Can't really talk on that one. Thing.
Honestly, though, getting the mustache trimmed is like medical. It's like I'm so bad at trimming my own beard. I don't know why.
Yeah, dude, I honestly, most people I like are, and I feel like I've reached a point where I just try to tell people like, just wait for me because
Yeah.
I don't want to have to fix your mistakes.
Exactly. And I know I'm gonna make a ton.
Yeah, I don't want to have to fix yours.
Yeah, no, my beard trimming skills are zero. So I just wait. But like I don't know what it is about the way my mustache grows. It gets to the point where I'm like, I need somebody to put a clipper on this thing.
Yeah. Are you working on any I guess you can't really talk about what you're working on right now, but
Not really.
have you finished?
But I'm working. I can say that, I'm working. We're always working.
Have you finished? Have you put anyone away recently? For any high profile?
I mean, to me, they're all high profile, but no, you probably haven't seen me on the news in a little while. But you will.
When what was the case you were on the news for?
I've been on the news for a lot of cases.
Well, drop some tea, dude. Give me some juice. What, bro?
The Temple fraternity rape case. I was all over the news for that. That happened it happened in 2017, something like that. I think we brought it to trial in 2020. It's not telling anyone anything they don't know. That was all. The Philly Inquirer covered that thing to death.
Oh yeah.
That was everywhere. But yeah, that was me. Trying to think. I don't know. I guess I got to Google myself because I don't know. I know I've seen my name in the news a bunch. It's been a while. But that's probably the biggest one. I was proud of that one because we had we were battling against like Brock Turner out in California, kid that raped a young woman and got like probation for it. And we were right before the Harvey Weinstein trial in New York. We were kind of bookended by those two things, so we were able to get justice for the survivors and we were able to get some accountability. And I don't know who it was. It was just like the article had gotten posted in the news, like on like the Inquirer or like 6ABC, something like that. And somebody from Philly, they commented, they were like, yeah, he thought he was getting that Brock Turner treatment. We ain't sweet in Philly. And I was like, that made me feel so proud.
Yeah.